Hello, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of The Mind of Reese. I am your host, Reese. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Please, if you guys could just do me a huge favor and subscribe, comment, and like, especially on all of the platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, whichever you're listening on. I would really, really appreciate that, especially if you've been coming back here often enough with me on these episodes. If this is your first time, welcome. I am so glad that you are here and willing to really just see how your mindset really plays into your business. And so today I kind of want to talk about the game of the ego. And we all understand that we all have an ego in play in all of us. And an ego can be a really amazing thing. You know, obviously it's a survival tactic that we have inside of our bodies that allows us that fight or flight feeling on whether or not we should do something or we should do something. It's just survival mode. But then there's oftentimes we get that ego when we are on the paradigm of what is right versus what is wrong. And oftentimes our ego really, really wants us to always be right. And I think I'm learning this over and over again every single day as I enter in new relationships, such as, business relationships or personal relationships, things like that. I'm noticing that every time I feel that feeling of being triggered or that feeling of opposition inside of my body, there's a part of me that wants to just be like, rah, no, that's wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. And I don't necessarily say those things in my head, but I know that that's what I'm feeling. And whenever I feel that trigger, I know that this is a perfect opportunity for reflection or for fascination. I find that if you are fascinated by your frustration, as Tony Robbins says, be fascinated by your frustration, because then we can stop ourselves, take a step back, and realize that although in our body, in our whole being, even if it's shaking up and down, that we believe that we are right, that if we truly, truly decided that there was a different game we could play instead of the right or wrong game, it's the perspective game. And I feel like you find true freedom within your life, within your business, within your relationships in your business, with employees, with other tattoo artists, that I have and things like that, that if I open my mind up to that everybody has a perspective and that a perspective is an opinion that is not right nor wrong, then I'm free. And I feel very, very free, and I feel very at peace. And then I go through life feeling less and less triggered. And I go through times of where I feel quote unquote opposition from someone I love or someone that I truly care about, or in a business relationship that I'm having with someone. I always find that if I could just be open-minded to it, I have less opposition, not only with them in trying to make them see my point of view, make them believe in my point of view. It's all about trying to make them do what I want, as if what I want is the right thing for everybody, and I find myself sometimes fighting with this. And don't get me wrong, I have my good days and my bad days, and I tend to get angry and I can lose myself at times. But I'm finding that as I start to get more aware of the fact that it's not right or wrong, a perspective is just a perspective, and there are so many of them, that I feel free. And I not only feel freer in that moment to allow whatever happens to play out, as far as like if there's an argument or if there's a disagreement or things like that, I'm also freer inside because I don't hold that animosity or that feeling inside of me that makes me want to just be like, oh, they're wrong, but I won't say anything. I think the way it goes, and this is how I want to kind of dive into how to put your ego in check a bit, is the first thing that I ever started to do was I really started to just get quiet. And instead of not actively listening and waiting for the next thing to say, because I already have the belief that this person is wrong, or that this person doesn't have the right point of view, or that they're not doing something right, I just get quiet. And I just let it sit inside of me, because at first I didn't know how to manage the feeling. I didn't like the feeling I had inside of me. All I wanted to do was just talk above and over and point fingers and things like that. But that was the first step for me, is that I just got quiet with it. And then now, as I get older and as I'm experiencing a bit more of this, because to be perfectly honest, I know that the reason why I'm experiencing this is because, well, I truly believe that the universe just thinks I'm ready. I'm ready to experience these new experiences. I'm ready to face a bit of opposition. I'm ready for a transition. I'm ready for transcendence. Let's just call it that. I'm ready. But there are times when that happens, it gets uncomfortable. And of course, you've heard, if you guys have listened to my other podcasts, you know that being uncomfortable sucks, but being uncomfortable means growth. And every day I've pushed myself toward the uncomfortable and pushed myself and pushed myself. And I think that I'm finding myself in uncomfortable positions because I am going into another unknown part of my life, which is a very big transitional phase for me. And I can either do what Einstein says, the definition of insanity, and do the same thing over and over again that I've done through the 32 years that I've been alive and the things that I've been conditioned to be doing my whole life, or I can be more open-minded and be aware that, hey, this game of right versus wrong has never served me in the past. What makes me think it's going to serve me now? And so when I talk about this, this is more about, for me, it goes along with like my tattoo artists, and I'm the boss and I have a certain say in certain things, and but I'm very open-minded to their opinions. And the same goes for relationships, like with my boyfriend or with my mom or with my sister. It all stems together, and we all evolve. And if we're not evolving, we're essentially not living. So at the end of the day, even though there is opposition, and even though there might be that trickling left feeling of feeling like, well, that person made me feel wrong, that person tried to make me wrong, I need to be right, I need to push them, like, you've hurt my feelings, now I've got to hurt you, this whole eye for an eye thing, it really does stunt our growth because of the fact that we are so rigid in our beliefs. And I'm not saying that your beliefs are wrong by any means, and I'm not saying that your beliefs don't stem from 10, 20, 30 years down the line. I mean, in all honesty, there is science that goes behind that. A lot of the decisions and most decisions that we make, we're making from our 10-year-old selves. That all the conditioning that we have had as a child, psychology says that as a child, that is in our most formative years that we retain a lot of our own beliefs from teachers, from parents, from siblings, from friends, from things that we experience and see, and we take all of these things. And essentially what we do is we focus on these beliefs, and then it becomes more and more cemented, and it becomes more and more cemented until we just believe that our perspective is what it is, that our perspective is truth and law, when really it's just an opinion. And I know I talk about this a lot. And I think the reason why I do it is because not only am I on a journey to self-discovery as well, along with you guys and explaining it to you here, is because I'm noticing that my ego has been stemming up a lot for me lately. And I think not only do I think it's because I'm falling off of my routine, which is usually running, jumping, like I'm always like workout first, meditation, then I do mind, then I study my mind, and then I have some days I have therapy, some days I have coaching clients that I coach, and some days I get coached myself. And so these things have all been up in the air because I have new adventures that I'm entering in that are unknown and that I've never done before. Yes, it's making me uncomfortable, but it's also causing me to be uncomfortable in the other areas in my life that are transitioning, because I feel like for some reason, everything right now is transitioning for me, like my job, where I want to go in my career, my new goal plans, my relationships, where I'm living, all these things are changing right now all at once, that I'm having a hard time taking hold of my minds and my thoughts. And I'm allowing them to run away from me. And again, allowing my ego to get the best of me because I've decided that my way or the highway or something like that. And so, like I said, when you feel wrong or you feel wronged, all you want to do, or you feel hurt by something or by someone, all you want to do is lash out and retaliate against that. When what we should be doing is not playing that game instead, because that game doesn't help anyone, right? Like whenever you feel like you've lashed out at someone, and even if you've won, even if you thought you've won the conversation or the situation, does it ever feel good at the end of the day? Do you ever feel like your heart is no longer heavy? I don't know about you, but I certainly don't. I feel like my heart's heavy. I'm just like, man, that happened. That stinks. Like, I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue, especially not with the people that I care about the most. And those are the ones that we tend to argue with the most because we feel comfortable and, it's just easier that way. But how about what if we didn't have to? What if we could just stop it? It's really just the shift. It's the shift in the perspective on perspectives. It's what it is. It's all a shift on perspective about perspectives. Instead of looking at everything being black and white, or right versus wrong, we look at it as Well, that's just a perspective that this person has. And when you find yourself feeling that way, you find that you are actually way more compassionate and way more open to hearing people out and letting them argue with themselves at the most part. Because you know what the hardest part is, you guys? And I'll tell you this right now. Being able to shift into everything is a perspective, nothing is right or wrong. I'm not talking about truth and fact or anything like that. I'm not saying that if I say my hair is green and you say my hair is blonde, obviously I'm not going to say that's not right. It's okay. That makes sense. I'm talking about the finer details of things, like what career path you want to go on, who are you going to marry, are you going to live with this person, like things like this, or how are you going to raise your child, something like that. Like these are things that we all have an opinion about and little minute detailed opinions about, and sometimes they might not completely agree with the person you're speaking with. So I think of it like this. Instead of playing the game of the ego, we want to shift to the game to the awareness toward your higher self. We want to move closer to that. The paradigm of right versus wrong is a losing battle. It's one of those things where, like I said, if you think you've won, you don't even feel like you've won. You just feel heavy. And that for me just is a word that resonates with me and my body, because I literally feel like there's rocks in my stomach whenever I'm like, we just had an argument, I want to win and be right and all these things. And then all of a sudden now I'm just heavy because I don't know, and then there's always this feeling of, it's just like it goes back and forth, and then you start having overthinking and all these other things, and then it just becomes overwhelming. When what if we could just not have a right versus wrong perspective? What if we didn't have that ego trip or that ego bond to our beliefs, as James Wedmore says? Ego bond, what means that like our beliefs are so bonded to us and what we do and what we believe that it becomes truth for us. And so our ego, that feeling inside of you when you feel wronged, that ego inside of you is like, no, they are wrong because of the beliefs that you have cemented over and over again. You've laid down the cement and you let it dry and it hardens, and now this is who you are. This is what we are. And that feels so debilitating and so shallow, where what if we could just be more open-minded to other people's opinions and perspectives? And I'm saying, you guys, I'm not saying that this will be easy. This is a simple idea, but it's really hard, because I'm going to tell you one thing. When you go into a disagreement or a debate or an argument with someone else, and you are on this new game of searching and being aware of your higher self and not playing the right versus wrong game, that does not mean that the other person is going to show you the same courtesy. They will be operating on the old beliefs, on that paradigm of right versus wrong. And so that phrase that we have, you got to be the bigger person, is very true in this situation. You just have to realize that there is no worth in trying to argue an opinion. That the only thing is that you want to share your opinion. Even though you guys have a disagreement, it could be a neutral disagreement. It doesn't have to mean one way or another, but that's the thing, is that we put so much meaning behind what we believe. We believe in it so hard that we are refused to let go. And then what? We become exhausted and we so tunnel visioned. And then this can stunt our growth and stunt our path toward not only our higher selves, but toward our hopes, our dreams, our goals in our business. Because especially as entrepreneurs, I'm sure that you guys are out there, we have to be more open-minded. We have to be a jack of all trades. We have to learn new things. We have to do all the things in our business by ourselves most of the time. And we feel that we know things in that business. We feel like, oh, I already know. And so when we have that I know attitude, we have this belief in this feeling of feeling right and righteousness inside of ourselves. And then when someone else comes along to debunk or to try and argue that, we are like, not going to happen. But who does that help? That helps nobody. It definitely doesn't help me, especially if I'm arguing with reality, especially if there's a circumstance or something like that. I cannot do anything about someone, what they say, what they do. I can't control my circumstance. I can't control another person. I can't do any of that. And if I'm trying to do that, I am trying to push a super heavy motherfucking boulder uphill, and I'm not going to get anywhere with that. So instead, what do? We pivot. And we realize that everything is a perspective. It's hard. Don't get me fucking wrong. Don't get me wrong. It is super duper hard for me, because I've even experienced just in the last couple of days how much perspective and the things that we focus on come to be. It's our intention and it comes to be. So if I'm so focused on some one thing, of course it's going to happen. It's like when I decided I wanted to buy a Jeep. I saw Jeeps everywhere. I saw them everywhere. Because whatever my focus is on is what's going to come to me, is what I'm going to perceive. So to me, that's why you keep seeing the same things. You see the evidence of it and it creates that ego bond. So you just see the evidence of like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to constantly see this certain thing, or I'm going to constantly feel this certain way. That's why it's really, really difficult for some people to let go of their past experiences, because that's what they've experienced. And then that, since they've experienced that, they actually almost project it out looking for that just in case it happens again, and then they bring it to their lives. Neuroscience tells us that our brain doesn't match our beliefs to match our life. It's actually the other way around. It matches our pre-existing beliefs to create our life. And so whatever we believe already and we're perceiving out because we have this belief inside of us and we're projecting it out there, that's what we're going to get in our life. So shifting your idea from the paradigm of right versus wrong, we are bonded to the perspective that we are right and that's the only way, and that our way is the only way. And trying to get the world to think like us is crazy pants, because at the end of the day, what do we really want? We just want to feel a certain thing. We just want to feel a happiness vibe or something positive vibe. And if we have free will of thought, and I can't change a circumstance, like I can't make someone think or speak or say whatever I want them to say or believe whatever I want them to believe, or I can't change my whatever, circumstances are just neutral. And we can look at it that way. We don't have to take what someone says personal. And when we believe that we can do that, when we can really just be on that level of awareness, then we become free, and we don't rely on others, other people, other things, external things outside of us to make us happy. Because at the end of the day, all we're searching for is a feeling. We want things because we believe it's going to make us feel a certain way. But at the end of the day, when you don't have the ego trip of right versus wrong, and you have only the idea that, hey, this is a neutral circumstance, this is a neutral conversation that someone else is having with me, whether or not their tone of voice or whatever is going off the handles and you can't handle that, I get it. Trust me, I am guilty of saying shit like that all day long. But when you realize that it's just neutral, then you can let go of the ego paradigm of right versus wrong and go into the paradigm of perspective. And realizing that what I want to cultivate is what's the feeling inside of me. And I want to feel good all the time. And I want to be ahead of the game. Whenever I have the right versus wrong mentality, I cannot move from this spot. I can't even think about my job. I can't even do creative work if I am stuck in my head thinking about some stupid argument where I wanted to be right in some capacity. I'm not going to go anywhere with that, and I'm not going to grow from that. And it's really, really hard pill to swallow because of the fact that I know just recently I felt this way, where all I wanted to do was just make someone wrong. And that shit hurts me because I'm like, man, why do I want to make one of the people wrong that I want to enter business with, or one of the people I love wrong? Like, that's shitty. But we tend to do that. And it sucks. But the best thing we could do is be aware of it. And the best thing we can do is realize that there's no win in a right versus wrong paradigm. So the more that we get this, the more that we are free. True emotional freedom is when you can look at anything, circumstances, people, what people say, how they say it, whatever, all those things that we cannot control, and turn it around in a 360 degree and look at it from limitless perspectives. Now that's transcendence right there. I mean, you're just understanding someone else's perspective and being aware of that. The next step to really, really getting control of your ego is to look at from limitless perspectives, is to really be aware and open that there are so many other perspectives on the same topic as you that you might believe from pre-existing beliefs are right, when it's just an opinion, it's just a perspective. So the question I want to ask you is, do you have a fixed perspective? Do you have a belief that you're like, oh, when you listen to this podcast, are you like, oh, well, I mean, I believe this, I don't believe that, I believe this, I don't believe that? Are you like questioning yourself what you believe or like agreeing with me or not? Because honestly, all that I'm saying is just perspective as well. So I just have an opinion about this. You can have an opinion as well. How about we go into conversations now? And this is what I want to challenge you guys is we go into a conversation, anybody, especially in business and in life, really, with openness and awareness. That's true growth. That right there will open up the doors to possibility, endless possibilities. Will open the doors to endless possibilities. Man, I want that. And me just talking about it makes me want to focus on it more. So guys, I really, really hope that you like this podcast. I knew it was super fast, super fun, super easy, but I always like to keep it that way so that we're not talking too much. And then I give you the sweet, sweet little, motivational spankings that you need to get you through the week. I will see you guys next time on The Mind of Reese. Please, please, please go and follow me on IG or TikTok if you got that, because that's so much fun. Please tag me in your stories. I'd love to know how much you love the podcast. Thanks, guys, again, and I'll see you next time.